I'm your host, Donna Cates, and each week we'll dive into powerful stories, expert strategies, and practical tools to help you take charge of your financial future. Whether you're planning for retirement, navigating a divorce, or simply looking to build your wealth with confidence, this is your space to grow, learn, and thrive. Let's get started with today's podcast. Welcome to today's program, and I'm delighted to feature Meredith Jones with Ally Property Inspections. Meredith, can you give us a 90-second overview of what it is that you do and why you got into it?
Sure. I'm so glad to be here today. Yes, I'm Meredith Jones. I own Ally Property Inspections, and I got into this business by doing construction. We owned a construction company prior, which is maybe even more unusual as a female-led, woman-owned business. So we do property inspections. We are located in Birmingham, Alabama. We also do them in Atlanta and Huntsville. So we are growing throughout the Southeast. And my job is, I like to call myself really the Chief Opportunity Officer. I'm always looking for, what are things we should be doing? What are new opportunities for different types of business? And so that's really where I like to spend a lot of my time, is doing that. One thing about the inspection industry is that it has been male dominated, and our industry is not typically loved to have change. And I'm definitely not that person. I don't mind change. I welcome change, especially if I can see that it's going to make things better. It is nice to start seeing a few more female owned inspection businesses, because I do think we look at things differently than men. And some of us, including myself, are not actually home inspectors. And so I think we even bring a different viewpoint than somebody who's been in the field for years. Um, I think our industry is going to change a lot in the next 3 to 5 years. We have venture capital now coming in and buying inspection businesses, seeing that we have a lot of good information they would like to get their hands on. And I also think that the way we're going to be doing inspections in 5 years will probably be drastically different due to AI and other technology coming up.
Ooh, I haven't heard AI in that context, so that sounds very interesting. And what are you doing to stay up on top of those things?
Well, we have partners that are more technologically advanced than we are. So, like one company in Seattle that we work with a lot, they are really a tech company, and they wanted to make inspections more standardized, to help like their large investors have a more standardized experience. So if they hire an inspector in California or one in Georgia, it all seems the same to them. And they're tech driven. And so they're always looking for what other advances can we be making, especially in the software that we're using. Because really these days the product we sell is a report. And so how that report reads, what information we're giving is there's definitely people in the field looking to advance that and change it. So AI, I do think will be part of that.
Oh, that sounds really exciting, and I know too, from past conversation with you, you did own a construction business prior, so another male-dominated industry. Now you've transitioned into this male-dominated industry, so you're a mover and shaker. What I really especially appreciate, Meredith, is that you actually went into this business, that you've built into a successful business without having much experience in it. And now, and you said this, you're offering innovative solutions that someone that had that experience might not have brought to the table. So I think that's really fabulous.
Awesome. See, females, we just think different.
We do, don't we? And I think I relate to that because when I got into the financial services industry, remember it's male dominated as well, as you know, but I it was a second career for me. So managing money and investments wasn't, what I went to college for. So I was learning totally new skill sets. But what drove me was my passion to change people's lives,
Mm.
through how they managed with money, how they thought about money, money mindset, and all of those things. So we're actually kind of creating a unique situation in that they're building financial goals or financial plans that are helping them live their best lives. So
Which is awesome. And it's funny because like even starting in construction, I came from the world of music. I have 2 music degrees. So I always tell people, like, you don't necessarily have to have an MBA to start a business, or just a different job type than you've had before. Sometimes we do learn through the school of hard knocks, but I also think that sometimes that can be a good teacher. Some people say you learn more from your losses than you do from your successes, and I would say I would take that to be true. I would say a lot of where I am now is because the lessons I learned in my construction business, and what I didn't want to take with me into this particular business. And I can talk more about that if you want, but I would definitely say I learned a lot from that experience.
Well, you're literally you must be reading my mind, because my next question, leads directly into that. What is the biggest failure or challenge that you've had, whether it's personal or business, that's to date, and that's led you to where you are today?
I think it's funny. So I definitely think I have a good knack for marketing. So that can be helpful for growing a business quickly. But what it may leave you unprepared for are all the systems and things that you need to have in place to sustain that growth and to really understand how to make your business profitable. Even, a lot of times money's changing fast, but it doesn't mean that it's making you money in your business. And so we grew our construction company very, very fast. And I realized going forward that was actually not helpful for us. It would have been more helpful to grow more slowly, to understand everything about the business going, the whole way up, and not having to have all the staff and all the cars and all the things, and then realizing, like, man, it's hard to even be profitable, at this size. And just because we didn't know certain things. So really, when we started the inspection business, I just really wanted to grow slow and learn the fundamentals so that I knew that when we grew, we would be fine. And I would say, like, that's not to say people can't grow fast, but I feel like that that's what people hear, is how to hack their way to, being a billionaire in 2 years. And I don't think that that works for most people. It might work for somebody, but I think a lot of times you're on more solid ground as a business owner if you've put in all of those pieces to that top level. And I would say that's what I learned from my first business.
And that is so awesome. So I will tell you, as working on my own independently, I find that we can't wear all the hats, and I think as a woman business owner, we're more apt to ask for help and hire the people that can do the things that we're not expert at. Have you had that experience?
Yeah, and I mean that also just goes into the whole, like, really from the start of our inspection business in Birmingham, we were already different than everybody else. We were still doing construction, so back then, this was right at 2012. Most home inspectors were one guy. They did everything. They answered the phone. They answered all the questions for the client. They did the inspection, wrote the report, all the things. Well, our office, answered our phones, made appointments. We had 2 people who were already licensed to do inspections. So we started out much more equipped as a business. And of course, I definitely couldn't have done all that. And I've never been an inspector. So definitely couldn't have done that part.
Got it. And that's so brilliant too, because I'm thinking of women that I even have as clients who end up running businesses because they were passionate about doing whatever it is they do, but they don't have business experience. So
Mm.
that can be painful for a lot of people. So you had your tribe in place.
I did. And, something, I think that's something too you collect over time is, who do you need in your corner and who do you have as your resources? Who can you get financial advice from? Who can tell you how to solve an employee issue if you've never faced that before? So I think those are, yeah, it's really important not just to have a great collection of people that work in your business, but I'd almost say your outside advisors, the people who've maybe been there and done that, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel and learn that from scratch. So,
Very empowering. And that's the thing, just knowing that we don't have to do it alone. That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
And I just had lunch today with a business owner. She started her business from scratch. It's called Potpourri Promotions, and she has a large outfit where they do all sorts of printing and everything. And, we were just sitting there, talking ideas about like, hey, what do you think if I went into doing signs, or, what if I did engraving instead, or, just bouncing ideas off each other. It's so important to have people like that, because as a business owner, especially when you're starting out, you can feel really alone. Like it's, I've got to fix everything. I have to know everything. But I think that's also a really big misconception.
And I can relate to that too, because me sitting here by myself, I'm like the squirrel. I see a shiny object, right? And I'm like, ooh, let's do that. And the next thing I know, I'm not focusing on, my primary business. So having a sounding board can be really, really important because they pull you back in too, right?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes, and I think it was funny because I think where the our conversation went was probably not where she thought it was. I told her, my goals for my business next year is to concentrate on how we can do more with what we have and not necessarily just continuing to grow more, which that's a mature thought from me because usually I'm like, how do we get more business instead of like, hey, maybe we should concentrate this year on refining our systems and maybe being offering more services to the clients that we have. So,
I think
yeah.
that's brilliant. Good for you. Good for you. Okay, so I'm going to shift gears here and ask you another question. If you could have lunch with one person, whether they're living or deceased, who would that be and why?
That is a great question. Huh. So if it were in my music days, if I would have said a guy named Astor Piazzolla. He's my favorite musician. He did a fusion of tango. Anyway, he would be somebody I'd actually really like to talk to, because he was somebody that said, he felt unworthy of playing on big national classical music stages because he learned his instrument, the band. I don't know how to say it, but it's almost like an accordion, but it's not. He learned it in brothels. And so he didn't think he deserved to be, he's making recordings and he has packed out, concerts. So I think that was a very interesting thing to see somebody who, made a whole new type of music, and then also came from somewhere that most people wouldn't think of, shaping that kind of like musician. So I don't know. I think that still would be my answer, is Astor Piazzolla.
Okay, that's so awesome, and it harks back to your instruments days. So,
Yeah,
in one of the things that I heard in that is that he may have had a little bit of imposter syndrome because he
sure.
felt like he didn't have a seat at the table when in
Yeah.
reality he made his seat at the table, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a story. I've read several of his biographies that have been written about him, and his composition teacher was a very famous composition teacher in Paris. And so she said, "Why are you trying to sound like everybody else? Why can't you just sound like you?" And I thought that was
Mm.
that's the advice that probably shaped him.
Wow, that is
Yeah,
powerful. And he obviously took it. So that's
he did.
awesome.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Well, Meredith, tell us from our listeners, for our listeners out there, how is the best way for them to contact you if they want to work with you or just learn more about what you do?
Yeah, I think like anything today, the internet is a great place to find us. So you can find us at alliedpropertyinspections.com. There's information about me, and then it's all the services that we do, which, it can be anything from doing a home inspection, a commercial inspection, or we can come do a sewer line inspection if you need it. So,
Oh, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that. So thank you for sharing that.
yeah,
Okay.
definitely want your sewer line checked.
Well, thank you so much for giving me the pleasure of hosting you today. I'm so grateful to have you in my world and part of my tribe. So, thanks so much, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. I hope today's conversation left you feeling inspired, informed, and ready to take the next step in your financial journey. Remember, building wealth isn't just about money, it's also about creating a life that aligns with your goals and values. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with the women in your life who deserve financial empowerment too. Until next time, stay confident, stay empowered, and keep building the life you desire.